awesome opportunity for us today to listen to a gym designer, somebody who has been in the gym designing space for so many years. But the reason I love this interview is because we're talking to him. He was a former college football player at Boston College. He has a lot of experience in the sports world, but then that the things that he learned, the mindset that he developed as an athlete, he transitioned that into the regular world when he began running gyms and designing gyms and training athletes and so forth. So amazing opportunity for you guys to learn from somebody who has taken what he learned in the athletics realm into the business realm. And I'm really stoked for you guys to get to listen to John Damon today. You're going to really, really enjoy this interview. So get ready. This is the Gametime Guru. So
what time is it? Game time.
This is the Gametime Guru Podcast, where I interview sports figures from all over the world to help deliver a panoramic view on sports. So whether you're a former athlete, one of the crazies, or simply a casual sports fan, this is the perfect show for you as we peel back the curtains and learn from our guests every single week. I'm your host, Shane Larson, and I'm helping you see sports through a different lens. What's up, everybody? Welcome out to another episode of the Gametime Guru Podcast. 9 years running on the podcast. Excited to have you guys with us. Now, if this is your first time listening, I know sometimes I say that each week where it's like, oh, we're 9 years running into the podcast. 183 countries, all 50 states have downloaded the show at some time during those 9 years. But if this is your first time listening, which a lot of the times it is, sometimes people just, they hear about our guests and they want to tune in for that specific episode. I want to say welcome. You know, the majority of people have not been listening for the full 9 years, so I get that. So thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time listening, welcome aboard to the Gametime Guru Podcast. If you want to hear other episodes and other interviews and all the content that we do, just hit the follow button. If you're on YouTube, that's my smallest platform. I never really published much on that until about 2022, but I am still building that platform out. Feel free to hit the follow button. If you guys are listening to the show on Apple, Spotify, anywhere else that you get your podcast, hit the subscribe button. It's all free. Just hit the subscribe button. We got interviews from athletes all over the world and sports figures from everywhere. And it's a really cool opportunity to learn. So joining us today, as you guys heard in the introduction, you guys, it's a man of many titles. The guy is a gym designer. He's a trainer. He's a former college athlete. He's the founder of The Cave, which we will learn about more moving forward in this interview. His name is John Damon. John, thanks for joining the show, man.
Oh my God. Thank you for having me. It is an absolute pleasure.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So with the man of many titles, you know, I was trying to figure out like, man, which way do I take this interview? Because there's so many things I want to kind of unbox. I mean, the college athletics world, the transition to the real world, the gym scene, which I'm a big part of now. And like, I love that. Man, there's just so much. First off, let's just kind of, I guess, talk about your sports background. Okay, so let's rewind the clock, John. Go back to John as a kid, and let's talk about like your sports and athletic background, when you got into athletics, and what that did for you, I guess, as a kid.
All right, we got to go back to where the Roman numerals are out. So we go back that
yes,
far.
Sir.
And I was raised by a single mother. My mom was the absolute best mother, and she had no problem like pitching to me every day. I was a huge baseball kid. Back when they had like those plastic helmets, I would save up and I'd get the Kansas City Royals one for George Brett. I'd get the Giants one for Will Clark, and I would bat lefty for those guys. And then if I was Jim Rice for the Red Sox, my hometown team, then, you know, you stand a little taller, you have the right elbow out a little bit more. And I would love it. Then I would come in on a Saturday morning and watch Joe Garagiola and Vince Scully, you know, to do the game of the week. And I would have a bat in my hand when my team was at bat, and I would have my glove in my hand when the team was in the field. And it was just being a kid and playing sports to me is probably the best thing. And baseball was huge. I absolutely loved it. And then when I was a freshman in high school, it's like, man, we're gonna go play football. I mean, I loved football too. I loved Lester Hayes was my favorite guy growing up, and then Howie Long. I loved the Raiders back then for whatever reason. But baseball and football, but I was a way better baseball player than a football player until you put the work in, you know. And yeah. I tell anyone, you know, everyone thinks of me like, oh, just this big, you know, alpha male football player. And it's like, shoot, like I played freshman football as a sophomore. I mean, I needed seasoning.
Right. So Talk to me about that too, because that's an interesting concept. As we get so people, if they're reading the transcript or the description of the podcast, they're gonna be like, oh, well, Division I football player, then but he played freshman and stuff. Like, so the work. Let's talk about that. Let's unbox that a little bit. The grind in high school, learning the importance. Like, talk to us about that. Is like, how did you even get to the point where you were skilled enough to get a scholarship to play Division I football? Talk to us about the high school grind, putting the work in every single day.
Story that I always tell everyone is that at the end of it, let's start with the end, right? It's like a real movie. You start with the end and then you go to the beginning, right? The last thing that I remember in high school was I'm sitting in a friend of mine's hot tub, which is funny because 35 years later, I now own my first hot tub. But in that kid's hot tub, and I did not grow up that way, the way that we were all seated, we were all sat in the hot tub was the first kid was like, hey, I wish I didn't fall in love with Leslie. I would have gone to more track practices. I would have gone to more captain's practices. I was a captain. I should have done it. The next guy, I should have gone to more football camps. I could have gone to more weightlifting sessions. And each guy had some regret about something that they didn't do. And mostly because these are all guys that you would die for, right? These are your brothers, especially in high school. Anyone that played high school football, I was getting recruited to play after my freshman year to play at other, Thayer Academy and Phillips Exeter and all these things. How, like, instead of everyone now reclassing at 5 years old in Massachusetts, you did it after your 9th grade year. And I'm like, I'm not playing at Thayer Academy. They're 1-9. We're going to win our division. And so I didn't reclass. I stayed with my guys, but each one had something. And by the way, they were all right. Like, each one of them had missed a component of the preparation. And I just happened to be last. And I'm like, I could not have done anything more. Like, for the last 2 years, the worst thing I did is there's times that I worked out before we went to the team workout. And then my coach would be like, man, you're so weak today. And I'm like, well, I already just did this workout like an hour ago, but I didn't miss a thing. I didn't miss a practice, extra running session, a weightlifting session, whatever it may have been. I went to it. I went to 3 football camps in the summertime. Whatever it was, I did it. And that's what I think is the secret. Like, unraveling it, if we want to go down a step further, when you play, I think you need to be in state. And anyone that played a sport knows what it's like to be in the zone or that, but you need to be present. And you can be present the best when you have no fear in you, or you have fear present, but you have the courage to do it anyways. And I think that's a huge thing. I mean, I was able to be more confident and more courageous because I had prepared like no one else. I didn't worry about the guy. Like, I had played against this guy at camp who was in front of me for East Bridgewater. I knew he was 180 pounds soaking wet. I'm 260. And I mentally abused him at camp. I made sure I was behind him in line so he would hold the pad for me. And then I would go a little bit extra. He'd end up on the ground. And then I would, whisper in his ear, November 12th. Can't wait to see you, Mike. And when he was thrown, like, I had beat him the way Rafael Nadal beat someone just by showing up, and I think these are components that people don't talk about, but it's definitely happens every day.
So interesting, man, but it's so true. It's so true. Why do you think, I guess your friends in the hot tub and many others, why do you think they don't put in the work? Like, the kids these days, why do we think we have so many regrets? Is it the fear of just doing the work? Is it the ignorance of not knowing how to do the work? John, why do you think so many people don't put in work and they have so many regrets when the day comes where it's kind of done?
Because I think that it's different for every person, but I think a lot of it is they think they have more time than they do. And a lot of people want it to be perfect.
Sure.
And the thing that anyone that will tell you that did it is it's never going to be perfect. If you're going to wait till it's perfect, it's never going to get started. And it's not about the motivation and putting on a Tony Robbins, getting 20 minutes in. And I'm a huge Tony Robbins guy, but that's not what it's going to do it. Do it tired, all these t-shirts and things, right? The key is, like Nike said, just do it, and it's so true. These kids just don't understand, I actually laugh because when I train kids, and I just had one of my guys went to Tennessee. He was the number one on ESPN's Top 100, and that's not because of me. He put in all the work, but all we want to do is have the habits of a 5-year NFL or NBA all-star. And if I can get that put into them, they will go wherever they want to go.
I love that. I love that. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's what it breaks down to. And by the way, we got kids that, whose dads played in the NFL, their dads played in the NBA. They won world championships. These guys are the best of all time. Like my second favorite Shane next to you is Shane Battier. He has 2 amazing children. His wife is a state champion. Like, they put in the work. And that's what like for my daughter, the only thing I ever wanted for my daughter is to be lucky, because at some point in time, luck will be the reason why you become Warren Buffett or Tom Brady. Luck is a massive component that we don't talk about. But if you want to have a chance when the ball is tossed up or the coin flips, right, you have got to put the work in, because if you didn't put the work in, that's when it's very hard to be present, because fear is going to be taken over.
Sure. I love that. You being around, not only being a high-level athlete yourself, but being around other high-level athletes, what's something from the mental side that you take away from those who compete at a very high level, and whether that's in business or in sports? We talk about Tony Robbins. I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan myself. I've actually had the opportunity. He came to one of our events at ClickFunnels called Funnel Hacking Live. And that was one of the coolest 3-hour events I've ever been. Dude keeps an audience going for 3+ hours.
Oh
It's
man,
wild.
I went to Date with Destiny. I've seen him do it 14 straight hours. Like,
oh my God.
How did I get in 50,000 steps? I only left a 7x7 square. Like, it is absolutely bananas. But I think with athletes, I would touch on 2 components. Yeah. The number one thing that I think that no one is teaching, and I think it's a shame, and I hope that me being out here, that this is one thing that someone will take away from this podcast, is that they don't know what is the first thing they have to do in order to be a great teammate. Like, people think, I got to clap it up. I got to pick my teammates off the ground. I got to sprint out when I'm introduced. And they realize, or I should say they don't realize, the number one thing in order to be a great teammate that you have to do is your job. If you get burned for 35 points or Kobe hits 80 on you, you're not a great teammate. You did not do your job. If your goal is to cover Jerry Rice and he scores 4 touchdowns on you, doesn't matter how much you clap up or you give everyone water during the timeouts, like, you are not a great teammate. You have to do your job. And that may be a very tough pill for people to take, but that is the truth. And what do we say? We need love and good information, right? And if we execute on love and good information, now we got a shot at actually achieving something. The other component of it is, what are your standards? Is it to be 500? Is it to be the world champion? And then do your standards match your goal? You know what I mean? Like, can't be, I want to be state champion, but I want to practice at 50%. I don't want to do any of the extra work. You got to do the work of what it takes to be at that level.
It's interesting. You mentioned the standard. You look at successful coaches in the sports world today. Kurt Signetti, Indiana, he talks about the standard. The Nick Sabans of the world, they talk about the standard, and then they don't deviate from the standard. Once the standard is set, that's where it's at. And the athletes, the high performers, they stick there. They know what the standard is.
I will tell you, even when it comes to gym design, anything in life, whatever is the lowest component of it, whatever is the thing that you dropped, that will be the level of the project. So if someone puts in a piece, not a great piece of equipment that's known to be a little faulty or break early, or it's just not up to the standard. I love the phrase, is it up to the standard? That's the last question I ask myself before I buy something. Is it up to the standard? I don't care if it's a bolt. I want to know, is it up to the standard? And if your thing is you want to be up here, then your standard cannot drop. I don't care if it's $10,000 to buy that one bolt. Either you get a second job or you find another way to pay for it, but do not lower the standard or it will not be a special project.
Ooh, dude, that's such a good point, man. Such a good point. Well, John, I know people are going to be like, okay, well, how did he get into this field of work? from my understanding from the interviews that I've listened to, because I listened to two different podcasts. I listened to a podcast, took the transcript of it, was trying to break it down. Then I was reading through your website, trying to break it down, going through all your stuff. And it sounds like it was in college when you decided to kind of get into the personal training realm, kind of getting into that side of things. Can you talk to us about that and maybe like give us some insight as to when did you get into the personal training realm and why did you decide to kind of start that at that time?
Yeah, my strength coach was a really awesome guy. His name was Wes Emmert, and he just thought I had too many questions. So he said, "Hey, John, I think if you get ACE certified, you'll come back after the summer and you'll have less questions." And the only problem for Wes is that I came back with more questions because I will tell you, like to this day, I think curiosity is one of the best qualities that someone can have. And I wanted to understand why we were doing it in this manner. And it's funny because a lot of those protocols are now gone. Like I always tell the story, and no, don't disrespect to Wes, but when I was in charge of the Mount Auburn Club, he applied for a job to work for me. And it wasn't anything personal. I'm like, you don't have what it takes to work in this environment, in the luxury, athletic market. You just can't yell at people and then they're going to just love it. Like the one thing that I also think that people don't pay attention to enough of right now, you cannot achieve anything and you can't get people to buy into you unless those people feel safe. So that's why you don't see certain coaches around anymore. And I love them. I have no disrespect to any of them, but like the Bobby Knights of the world, that, like, I know that they were loving on people, but like if people do not feel safe, they will not be able to ever be at their best.
That's so true. That's in any part of leadership, period, point blank, whether it's sports or whether it's in the business world. And I can speak to that 100%. I know that's exactly how it is, man. That's such a good point. So as you're getting certified, I guess, talk to me about this. I want to hear about your college football experience real quick. So I want to make sure I touch base on this. You're getting certified, be a personal trainer. You're doing all the things. You're playing the game. How was your college experience competing? And at what point did you know, John, that you weren't going to be like, at what point did you know that the playing days were coming to an end and you were going to transition to the next phase of your career, so to speak?
I don't think until I left Boston College that I knew it was over, because I had never thought about being anything else except for a pro athlete.
Oh, okay.
And, so I don't think that it was ever that. I think there are a couple things that I would reference. I think that on the first day that the veterans showed up in August, I hadn't even turned 18 yet. And when you line up to run, and it's like, okay, like, again, you have fear. We talked about it, right? You're going to have fear. And what's the number one fear when you're on the line and you're going to race people? Don't be last, right? No one wants to be last, because if you don't think you're being evaluated, then you are dead wrong, because they are evaluating. And so I actually stand next to what I think is the more overweight, shorter than me. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to beat this guy. This guy, there's no question I'm going to at least beat this guy, if not beat everyone, right? And sure enough, that guy wins the 30-yard, 40-yard race, whatever it is. And then we come back, we do a bunch of them, and we're all done. And there's just a basketball underneath a hoop. And, he might only be 6'3" at the time. He just picks up the basketball and just jumps up and dunks, not with like a running start or anything. And I'm like, dang, that's just what I call a freakzilla. This is someone that has athletic ability that is beyond 99.5% of people. And that guy is Braun Stone, and he played about 14, 15 years in the NFL. And I'm like, wow, I should be a scout because that guy is that good. But when you're competing, like my career and all of that good stuff, like I got to play under Jack McNell, who's a Boston College legend. I played for Tom Coughlin, who's a Boston College legend, and very different, points of view. To me, college was the beginning. I had just started like learning how to be Batman. And instead of today, when you get paid, it could be even like $10,000 or $20,000. I was coming from that of a single mother, and my sister had just gone into the hospital a couple of years before, and she was in the hospital, multiple brain surgeries and multiple surgeries, and could die at like any moment. And my mother needed money. So I was working, jobs at nightclubs and bartending and bouncing just to give my mother money. But if anyone ever found out that I had a job, I would have lost my scholarship.
Right.
So it's a really dual-edged sword. You know what I mean? Like, so I wasn't trying, to hook up with a girl on Saturday night. I'm like, shoot, I got to make $800 in 1990 in order to like pay. My mother has like 4 bills that are due on Monday, and they're not paid on the computer the way they are now or on your phone. You had to drive to your hometown, which for me was 40 minutes away, and go to like your local drugstore, which for me was Bemis Drugs. And I would beat myself up because I would only pay 9 out of 10 of them. I was coming home from study hall before I would go to work, and my roommate would be like, hey, there's like 12 messages on the answering machine. And each one was like, John, I need this. John, I need $400 to this, and it's, like you try to figure it out. Like I call that leveling up. Like, like how good are you at pattern recognition? How good are you at solving those patterns? I mean, this NIL money, it's so amazing. These kids, if they do it right, they could be set for life. I know there was a gentleman on your podcast was even saying how it has a false start because they don't realize when they get a job for 60 grand that they're just at the starting place, and they've been playing sports since they're 5, and it took them from 5 to 19 to get to make that money. And you got to put work in, right? It's all the same pattern. It is the same pattern. Outwork everybody, but with good work, be present, and then compete.
Absolutely.
Then you got to get in state. Now, no one realizes it. Like, I think one of the hardest things for this generation as well, because they're not boomers and they're not this, is that there is the eye of the tiger, Sure. And if you can't switch into warrior mode and out of magician mode where you're like, bro, right? You got to go eye of the tiger. And when you click on that button, it's time to compete. But that's what sports is so great, because it's the only place in the world really where you can go into warrior mode and it's appropriate, and these kids, to me, being in school, whether it's in college or in high school or younger, it's the only time that you're forced to be around mediocrity if you are not mediocre, right? If you're excellent and mediocre, as Nick Saban says it best, right? They don't like each other.
Right.
They don't. Mediocre does not like excellence. Excellent does not like mediocre. But in life, like the reason why I think I have such a great life, I very rarely deal with anyone mediocre, and it makes my life better. There's no takers. There's no hangers on, like whatever you want to call it. That's not part of my life. But for these high school kids, and then you add on top of it that they're 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, up to 22 years old, I guess, in high school now, right? But they have to deal with mediocrity. And then they are also being judged by it, right?
No, absolutely.
And we all have a human need of significance, and just a matter of how much of that you really like. Like one of my superpowers, which I think any athlete needs to know what their superpower is if you're not on my board of directors, I truly do not care what you have to say about something that you have not put a proposal in for with me. Like I want kids to have the right people on their bus, have a board of directors, people that are experts at what they do, and then that's who you ask the questions for. Our generation was one where we asked our parents, and our parents were terrible with money unless they were wealthy. Our parents were terrible with fixing things or painting a wall or any of it, and it's just not what they did. There was no YouTube channels for them to watch to learn how to install a light fixture. Now we're inundated with information, some of it good, some of it bad, but we have a lot of information out there.
Oh, totally. Absolutely, man. So for you, I guess, John, as you were transitioning, I mean, you had mentioned in the story here, like the struggle of having to make money while you're in college, the struggle of all that, but you're learning along the way. You're putting forth your best effort, but then you transition out of sport into the real world. What was your next steps, I guess, or what were your next steps after the ball went flat, they say, right? Yeah. What were your next steps? What did you do?
Well, you can't say that in front of a Bostonian, by the way. There's no Deflategate ever talked about. But you do what you do when you're a kid from Boston and you go into finance, right? You either go to Putnam Investments or Fidelity and you get a starter job, and that's what I did. I went to Putnam Investments And then I realized, like, geez, is this really what I want to do for the rest of my life? Is just sit in meetings, do not talk, do not take any action, and just hour after hour. Like, this is what people do for a living. Like, it's funny, but now they have studies that show that your brain stops recording. Ben Franklin talked about it. He goes, most people die at 25. They just don't realize it till they're 75. But there now are studies that show that your brain stops recording because it's just the same thing every day. So it's like you think your life's gotten shorter, but in reality, just the recall button, the record button has not been pressed because it's the same thing. Go to Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, go to your job, and it's just rinse and repeat. And no one adds anything to it. And if you don't, I think you're meant to have great stories. And
sure,
if you're not living to have great stories, your recording device isn't going to ever turn on. But I went to work for, like I said, Putnam Investments. And then I was training people before and after work every day. And then I would still go to bartending and all that other good stuff. But I was like, man, those are the best hours of my day working wise. And I'm making almost as much money as I do during the day. Should I, go into personal training full time? And I interviewed at like 4 or 5 places, and I got a job at every one. But the one I took was at the Cambridge Watertown line. It was called the Mount Auburn Club. It had, I want to say, like 18 tennis courts. It was gorgeous. It was in a super upscale part of town, but their personal training was nothing. Like, I was like the second or third trainer that they ever hired.
Oh, wow.
And so it was like starting from ground zero. And then 6 months later, I started training the owner, and everyone's like, oh my God, we loved you so much. We're so sorry, John. And I was like, oh man, like, what do you mean? They're like, anyone that trains with Bill, his name was Bill Crowley, an awesome guy. They're like, they get fired within 2 weeks. I'm like, oh man, I really love this job. Like, I hope I don't get fired. But he was one of these interesting guys that, like, when you said, hey, how are you doing today, Bill? Like 5 minutes later, he'd be like, I'm good. And I'm like, what? And then I would go back and be like, oh, he's answering the question. He's been thinking for 5 minutes about how he is. He's a very cerebral guy. And about 6 or 7 months in, I put together like a real proposal about what he could do to his gym to make it better, so it could be more visible to the members, because it was up on the second, third floor. And it was about taking out racquetball courts. And the time, Jack Welch, I was very lucky to work with some awesome people. And we put in a personal training studio where there was a half basketball court, because in my opinion, the basketball only caused fights and it made no money for the club. So let's put a porthole on that door and people could peek in, but it was all about good vibes. Like even like to this day, I think whether it's a team or a gym, it's all about the energy. Your family, it's all about the energy.
Yeah.
And
okay.
So then, I didn't hear from him for like 6 weeks. And then he's like, John, I blocked off your schedule. Come and see me at noon. He goes, that project you proposed, we're doing it. And you're now like the head of fitness. I was like, dang. And then he gave me a percentage of any increase than what we were doing from that time. And we went from making $80,000 a year in personal training to making $80,000 a month in like less than 2 years.
Oh, wow, man.
So like, we're killing it. Like, we're way ahead of it. We're way ahead of where Equinox was or any of that kind of stuff. And one of my things that I've done well is always like spot trends. Like what's big. Like, to me, if I'm an athlete, I'm making sure I got a real FDA approved hyperbaric chamber that I have access to as much as I need it. But and then after, living in Boston and, at the time, like I was joking around with you off camera and saying, like, with Johnny Damon, well, that's when the Red Sox were great. I'm lucky I'm working with some awesome people, and, I'm getting like reservations just because my name is Johnny Damon. Like, hey, what time do you want to come in? I'm like 8 o'clock. And then they weren't upset because they're like, oh shoot, it's that Johnny Damon, and like, even like back in those days, I'm on the radio with him and challenging me to like push-up contests and stuff. And like, I'm in better shape. I'm 6'4" at the time, 255, a brick shithouse. And like, he's like, dang, like what the heck is going on here? Like, I wasn't expecting that, but like, it was just a great time to be alive. And then I turned 30, 9/11 happens. And I'm like, I want to see again, right? You want to measure against the best. And back then, the best was in Los Angeles. So I literally picked up and drove cross country. And the first year the Escalades came out, I forget what it was, 96, 97 or whatever it was. And I drove my couch across the world and ended up in Los Angeles. And then a month later, I'm the assistant fitness manager of the Sports Club LA, which was Rome back then. That was the epic, most amazing sports gym and environment facility on the planet. And before I even took the job that weekend, before I'm supposed to start, the fitness manager quit. So I was the fitness manager when I didn't even have a login yet.
Oh,
and all I did is what we do in sports. Told the team the vision, could see who was buying in. If you didn't buy in, you are gone. Because we're going to do this like we're then. And I just hired people that believed in the vision, that I could motivate and that I could support and pour love into. And we did that. And then we hit records for Sports Club LA 3 years in a row or 2 years in a row of over $3 million in personal training and just, off to the races. Then took a job at Equinox so that I could actually have some extra time back, because then I was working 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. minimum. And just so I could go to banks when I was done training people, which was so easy just to deal with one person when I had 120 employees, 82 trainers, 20 Pilates people, front desk. At Equinox, I'm just training Ryan Reynolds and some cool people. And then at like 2:00, I could go between 2 and 6 and go to like Rancho Cucamonga and pitch like, hey, I want to start this gym, Active Fitness, get active, get fit, get results. Here's my little dumbbell. Can I have $1 million? And then get no 36 times. On the 37th time, I always said I would go to as many as Walt Disney went to. And boom, we get the not even doable now, a small business loan.
Wow, man.
And then I did the right thing and didn't steal people from Equinox that I was training. I was upfront with Equinox, and I love Equinox. Still a standard in this industry. And I sit on my butt for 9 months because I don't have good information. And the building that I'm renting from does not have occupancy. It does not have their certificate of occupancy. So I cannot open, even though we're paying rent. And you don't know what you don't know.
Wow. Okay. So that is real quick. So the journeys from you going out of football, you're in Boston, you're working in the financial industry, you come out, you're working, you go across the country after you went from Mount Auburn Club,
Yep.
You went across the country to LA, Sports Club LA, you're turning that thing around. Then you join Equinox, you're turning that thing around.
We're the first Equinox in Los Angeles, actually.
So you're the first.
We are the flagship for the West Coast, right? Let's make it happen, And it's a big deal, because they're coming in and saying like, we're going to take on the Sports Club LA.
Oh man, that's super cool. But then here's the interesting thing about that: going in and starting Active Fitness, you're trying to figure it all out, but you don't know what you don't know. I guess in that moment where you're sitting there and you don't have the occupancy at the building and you're still paying the rent on that lease, what was going through your mind, John? What were some of the parallels from your sports career and from all of your life experience that you were saying, okay, like how do we figure this out? Because we're bleeding cash at this point.
Yeah. I mean, we're losing $33,000 a month,
it's crazy.
And that's what our marketing budget was, this and that. It's like, what can I do? Like, what is the pattern that I need to do to win? So it's like, again, when you finally get the doors open, it's like also you think, I joke around with kids a lot. I'm like, there's no silver bullet store. There's no magic pill store. So you got to just work. And that's what I did. I literally, went from doing very well financially to getting paid 2 coffees a day from Starbucks, like for 4 years, so not like 1 year or and then a pot of gold came. No, like bills were due every month. And I would have been an awful friend back then, because all I was thinking about is how do I take this thing over the top? I was obsessed by how do I fix a problem that I don't have the solution to, because it truly is one of money. It is a financial thing. It's why I always tell anyone, make sure you have the financial backing, because generally Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk can always, they can buy their way out of it.
Yeah.
It is just the way it is. It's what's so nice about today, whether it's a podcast game or YouTube channel, like anything that you want to do, you can do it on a much smaller level, and it could be just as financial rewarding. Back then, brick and mortar was generally like all of our friends' dads that did well, they owned their own business, a lumber yard, a Radio Shack, 3 Dunkin' Donuts, whatever it may have been. This is what people did if they were like the guy in their hometown, right?
Yeah.
And now it's not that way at all. It really, like, to tell you the truth, unless you can own the building, I would never do another brick and mortar situation. I would have to own the building.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was actually just talking to a buddy of mine who owns a company called Aesthetics, and they make customized weightlifting belts. And anyway, I went to his office just on Friday, and he was talking about how they own the building out there, and there's some reasons for that and stuff. So yeah, it's interesting. Just talking business. That's the thing that I geek out about. I love sports. I love marketing. I'm a marketing professional in the real world. But then also I just love business. I love learning about business. And so hearing you say that, though, I think it's crazy. Like, people don't realize. I bet that time, John, well, you're saying you went 4 years of not having a lot of money. I mean, you're making ends meet. But sometimes I think what people don't realize is you probably didn't know if there was going to be a light at the end of it. You were just grinding and hopeful that you're going to keep putting the work in and have it. That's a little unsettling. So I guess my question for you is that phrase they say, are you willing to sprint when the distance is unknown? Like, how did you continue to do that when you weren't for sure? You didn't know, like, the distance was unknown for you at that time.
The distance was way unknown. I will tell you, I lost the sense of smell. Like, I just worked. Like, I literally would, like, people don't understand what it takes. I would go home when the gym was closed at 10 p.m. and I would do the towels, and then I would fold the towel. I would then get up at like 3 a.m, put them in the dryer so that we would have towels for the next day. And then if the dryer ever broke or the washer broke, I'm at a laundromat. So, like, I'm literally in Terminator mode, where all of a sudden I could be talking to my now wife and I'd be like, hey, Gina, how are you? And how was your day? And it like terminate down. And it was just, I had just had no more energy. If I went to work out, I would literally like get on a bench to do like chest press, and I'd be like, oh, it just feels so nice to put your head down. Like, this is amazing. But I always believed I've never failed at anything. So I'm like, I knew that there would be light on the end of the tunnel. Like, crazy enough, it was not the right partner, but the next business partner that I had, the reason why he went into business, he's like, I had no idea you were even in trouble. You're like the happiest, best trainer ever. Like you're telling me that we're closing the doors in 2 days? What's happening? And I'm like, well, the lease is up. We had paid fully on the lease, but he wanted late fees. And so, like, I'm just not doing that. I've now gone, 4+ years getting paid in Starbucks. And I see what that money would be if I was just even just private. Like in Los Angeles, there's these places that you can go that, like, you just rent space. You know what I mean? You just, whatever it is, $20 a workout, and you want to talk about seeing standards. Like, I had never not been at a place that doesn't have a high standard. I only taught high standards. Now I see people eating oatmeal out of Tupperware with shirts that haven't been washed, and they haven't brushed their hair or showered. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to clean up here. Like, let's go. Like, the worst part, the story gets actually worse for a second. We close our doors. My mother does not believe that she has any more hope. My mother dies 4 days after we shut the doors to Active Fitness. And I got to take money that I have under the floorboards to pay for her funeral.
Oh, man.
Right? Literally a woman without hope. The biggest warrior that I know. For over 20 years, she took care of my sister that was in a wheelchair at that point in time, had some, brain injury stuff going on, had lost her 7 brothers and sisters because they didn't know what to say. So they said nothing. And then 1 month becomes 6 months, becomes 2 years, becomes 20 years. And, it was 1 of 7 children, but no one doing anything. Like, so even to me, the right thing to do is always the right thing to do. But I tell anyone, if they deal with anyone that has something going on, they just got cancer, whatever it will be, tell them it sucks and that you got their back if they're in your life. Just don't go silent, right? Because you don't know what to say. Again, right? Here's an overriding principle. It's never going to be perfect. You're not going to come up. You can go into ChatGPT and be like, what's the perfect thing to say to my best friend that got cancer? That might be a good start, but that ain't going to be perfect either.
Yeah.
Man. And so we go back to Boston. I come back, I think 4 days later, and all my clients show up at this place called Pro Gym, which was like the it place of the independent trainer. And back then it was over like 200, 250 a session I was making, and people were buying 20 packs. So I'm getting 25 grand, 2,500, in sessions for a 10 pack, 5 grand for that. After 1 week, I had like 50 grand in the back, and I'm like, man, we're back. And then we're opening up our second gym. And then that gym kills it. We move on and go completely private, because then you realize that there's too many jabronis in the world. And when they go up to, the LeBron James and Tom Brady's of the world, and not for these guys, but for other people, that they go up to them and be like, hi, can I get a picture? I know that I'm not supposed to ask you for a picture, but can I have a picture? And that's what makes these guys realize that they're not in an environment that's completely safe, right?
Yeah.
We'll go back to being safe. So now you go completely private, like the Gunnar Petersons of the world that just dominate the game on that level, and understand that that's where it's at. And then I go private, and that's my workout partner at the time too. And I'm like, it's the best move ever. If I have to shut down the gym to go to a doctor's appointment, I don't have to worry about the front desk girl, or, the computer wasn't working to set up to sign the person up, or, oh, you gave them a year free because that's why they would join. It's like, whoa, like we don't have, I just had to train my people.
So what year was that? So as I look at your stuff, was that the bunker? That was
the bunker. That was the first private gym that I owned. That was completely private, like literally no one. There was another guy in there that owned it before, and then he had some financial troubles, but it was just me. Generally, I was there by myself all the time.
No, I love that, man. So what was the aesthetic like there? Because you have the design in mind.
Yeah, so that was more nightclub. So he had it where it was like a lot of New York subway tile. So we just dug into that, and I'm a huge Ian Schrager fan.
Okay.
And so like and I'm a huge black on black guy. So the bathroom was white, and then we basically blacked out. I did like this cool black on black with part of it velvet wallpaper. We did this wood wall that was all like a lacquered black with like rivets on it, really cool, with some like really like edgy, moody sconces on it. And then it was just phenomenal. Like it had great energy, but it was more sleek and sexy. There were cool pictures of like David Beckham from like editorial shoots and that kind of stuff. Wow. They were zebra chairs. It's funny, we still have the zebra chairs, but like that's where that was. And there was some artwork, and it was like swanky, sexy.
Dude, I love hearing this, because earlier in the interview you were talking about just vibes of a gym, like the vibe.
Yeah.
And I dig that, just like hearing the vibe.
And it was even better because you would drive down into a parking lot that was underground. So paparazzi was not allowed to go into the garage. So it was literally so private that like people just walked into this door. And it's like, oh, who's that? Adriana Lima. Oh, who's that? Kristen Cavallari. Who's that? And it was just such an awesome vibe. And they could play, like if you have your own playlist, you can play that, or I have an understanding once I get to know you, that what you want to listen to. And then I do a lot of slideshows for visual, because instead of just having like the ESPN scroll that everyone just drowns out to, I put like, inspirational sayings or cool photos, or, and then again, these people do like significance a little bit. So sometimes you slip in a picture of one of them in there, and it just, it works. I mean, the model has not changed that much.
I love that you have that eye, the creative eye, the creative mind to like be able to figure this stuff out psychologically for a consumer too. Like the people who are your clients, they psychologically that just it provides a better experience for them. I think that's awesome. So,
Well, and it's safe, right? Like we started off and saying, like now we've gone to the ultimate safe environment, right? Like there is no cameras, there is no one else, there's no whispering. You can just be yourself, and it's just a great environment. Like you can listen to the music at level 10 or no music at all.
Yeah.
Like I love all of it. Like right, the lights could go at level 10, or you can make it moody and have them dimmed. It's like whatever that person wants. I don't have any issue with it, right? It's their hour. Like it should be the best hour of their day. It's the only hour that's just for them.
Oh, I like that too. Make it about them, make them the hero essentially, and you get to make them a personalized experience. It's like almost when you go to the spa or the barber shop, dude. That's like your time to just like chill for a minute.
Like I said, it's the only hour of their day that's just for them.
I love that. I love that, John. So talk about your own personal gym, the Cave. We talked about it earlier. On your website, you also have it on there as like its own landing page. It's the Cave. Talk to us about the Cave and what you got going on over there.
One of the sickest spots you could ever have. It is I guess we've had it now almost 9-10 years. It's been complete over 8 years for sure. And I am grateful for it every time I take the first step to go into the gym. It is based on Dante's Inferno. Grays are purgatory, blacks are hell, and then white is heaven, which is like the 5-person steam room and bathroom area. The two hells are where we have red light and PMF mats and the cold tub. The other one would be what I would call the cardio room, and then purgatory is the gym, right? We got to put the work in every day. Push the rock up the hill, falls back down at the end of the hill, right? Rent, as the rock says, right? Rent is due every day.
Man. So who helped you? So if you're looking at the website, which I am scrolling through right now, unbelievable looking. Like it just looks the vibe. Again, we'll use the word vibe.
It's where Bruce Wayne works out when he's not Batman.
Dude, this is so sick. Who was it? All you're doing, or did the wifey have any say in this matter too?
Well, we generally agree on design.
Oh, okay.
But like this was all me, like literally like one day, because again, I told you, you got to have motion, you got to have something that started. And the guy that ended up just doing our backyard for us, by the way, which is not on the website, which is part of the Cave now, is he just brought over a sledgehammer. I just took out the stairs. Literally, we'd have to then jump down like 8 feet, because I'm like, we got to start doing it. And we have now all glass stairs and really, really cool design. Not the typical Charlotte house, but to me, it's what I wanted to create. There's rivets on the walls. It almost looks like a concrete.
Yeah.
In the gym, slabs. That's all faux concrete, but it's got texture. It's amazing. It's got, this shelf that has like that, amazing Tash and Arnold Schwarzenegger book in there. And, we got helmets that are from the NFL and from West Point and all types of amazing things. And never mind that, we have the best equipment, whether it's the Sornex racks, iron grip dumbbells, everything is up to the standard. The door that's in there is the best metal and glass door you're going to find. Our whole deck that's out there where you jump rope or how you come into the gym is all Iroko. It's African teak. Like that was inspired. The deck and the outdoors were inspired by the Four Seasons Anguilla, which if anyone has ever not been there and they can afford it, shout out to the Four Seasons Anguilla, one of the nicest places you could ever be. But that's what we wanted to bring home from that vacation. We're about to redo both of our decks. And it's like, I just reached out to the Four Seasons, like what materials did you use? And they sent it to me. I'm like, done. Let's go.
Dude, it's so sick.
But now like outdoors, we have 2 hot tubs, or we have a cold tub and a hot tub, fire pit in between those. And then you got an 85-inch TV out there. You got full turf, so you can do any mobility work for sports, or just push a sled or pull a sled if you're Ben Patrick. Like, let's get it going.
Man, that's so sick. That's a goal that I have one day, man. Yeah. Just like get my house like in order in that regard. That would be so sick. I might have to use you for your services, man.
Oh man, anytime. It's my pleasure.
So talk to us about that, man. So like people are going to hear this. They're going to look at it. You got athletes all over the place that are listening to this. You got parents of athletes that are listening to this. And I know a lot of athletes and their parents that have home gyms for their athletes that like they're starting to build those onto their homes now because they're sick of going to gyms. And so if they want a personalized gym, how does one actually contact you, John? If they're like, okay, how can I get his expertise on this? How do they contact you?
My email is really simple. It's my last name, DAMON @johndamon.com, or on Instagram, it's @johndamon.com. That's really, I guess, the one social media I go on to, but like direct message me, email me, go on my website, johndamon.com. We're going to hear a commonality of this, right? But contact me. And like I said, we just did something in Pennsylvania. I've designed gyms as small as 1,000 square feet and as big as 150,000 square feet. So, this is what we do. If it's a good vibe, I always say like I'm the Tom Ford of, I want to be Tom Ford meets Fight Club. Like if I can do it the way that I want to do it after I interviewed you and try to come up with something that we can make the sickest thing ever, then I would love to do that.
Oh man, that's so cool. Are you pretty well versed in like finding the equipment? Like, I guess working with people on a certain budget. Like that's another thing too. What if somebody's like, okay, well, my budget's X. And you're like, okay, well, we might not be able to get the premium here, but we have other. Do you have a pretty good understanding of what can and can't be done?
I do, but I generally like if price ever comes up at the beginning, I generally know that I'm not your guy.
Yeah,
it's like I'm not your physical therapist. I love working with super healthy people. And if you're saying to me, like, everything's about price, I'm going to tell you, like, I've been in this game for too long. Like, you're not going to hire me because I'm going to make you see something that you won't ever be able to be unsee. And then when you decide to not do it, you're going to have nothing but regrets, not me. And
dude, okay, no, I love that. You know your business model, your clientele. I know it.
I'm not trying to be Walmart. I'm not trying to sell to everyone.
Oh, I love that, dude. This is super cool, John. So as I come to the end of the interview here, I kind of want to just ask you, what's the biggest life lesson that you have learned thus far in your life, whether it be from the sports world or from the business world, just like the growing pains that come along with it? What would you like if you could take it away and just say, here's what I've learned thus far? What would it be?
I think that you really have to know patterns. You got to be able to recognize patterns and then learn how to solve problems. I think that if you can solve problems, you will be valuable till the day you die. We got to solve problems. That's what life is. Like everyone thinks like they're going to have a life without problems, and problems will actually be one of the only constants of your life. It's like exactly the opposite, like it is what it is. Like problems, like the quality of your life will be what you focus on. And if you just focus on the problems, then you're going to have a really crappy life. But if you focus on what you're appreciative of and what you're grateful for, man, oh man, like you're going to live a great life.
I love it. I appreciate your time, John. I'm looking forward to just staying in contact with you and just kind of following your journey and everything. And for all those who are listening, make sure to follow John. I have the website here linked in the description. Got the social media on the description as well. So make sure you guys go and follow him. And if you guys want to utilize him for his services, you know where to find him. You know what his email is now. You know what his website is now. You know what his social media is now. And so for all those who are listening, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, please leave us a review. Let us know what you thought. And John, just want to say thank you once again for joining the show, man.
Shane, it was my absolute pleasure. It's really great to get to know you, and whatever you need, we're here for you.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. For all those who are listening, make sure to tune in. We'll be coming to you next week with another interview. Take care. Guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of my show. Now, if you could go and do me a favor, head over to iTunes, give me 5 stars, and leave me a review, it would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your support.